In 5:15, I'd like to call the Board of Public Works Monday, October 6th meeting to order. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Okay, thank you. I look for motion for the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Adopt the agenda.
Motion made by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Herder to adopt the agenda. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Public input.
Come up to the microphone.
You want to come to the microphone?
Kind of figured you'd make me do that. I assume it's on? Good, okay. My name is Gina Stasko. I live at 313 East Wolf River Avenue here in New London. And I know it's getting on to the end of the season, but I have a couple of questions which you may or may not be able to answer right now. But I have noticed over the last 5 years since we've lived here that the residents of this town are terrible about putting their grass clippings into the street. One, it's dangerous for bicyclists as well as motorcyclists. And all that crap ends up in the river. And I'm just kind of wondering if there's anything going to be done about it. I've never seen any warnings or fines or anything like that on residents' doors when they do that sort of stuff. And it's particularly bad during this No Mow May stuff that's going on, which I understand some of the environmental issues with that, but it just looks terrible. And that's about all I've got for this evening. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Do we have any other public input? You bet.
Stephen Sternberg, 1110 West North Water Street, New London. I have an issue with the 1100 block of West North Water Street. This is not a problem of the street department. They have nothing to do with this. This is a DNR issue. If it needs to be dealt with, it has to go through them, not through the state, not through the street department. These guys are doing a good job, so it's not their fault. Little history on this property. I lived where I am for 45 years, give or take. This property was originally, and still is, DNR wetland. It was illegally rezoned R2. So people tried to fill in adjacent land next to this also. And someone contacted the DNR and they had to remove the fill. So the problem here is the runoff from these apartments. And there's nowhere for it to go. You can't put a storm sewer in because the water comes up in the spring, floods the streets. And you can't dig down because there are all the stuff is underneath the ground there, utilities and everything. So you can't dig down and dig a ditch and for it to run off or absorb. Probably absorb, otherwise you'd have to run it off into the adjacent empty land, which is also DNR wetlands. So there is no easy answer for this. The problem was created years ago by people in the city hall and council by rezoning this to start with. So where it goes from here, you'll have to contact the DNR and work it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. Do you have any other public input? Any other public input? Seeing none, we will close the public input. We'll move on. Looking for approval of the September 3rd meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve September 3rd meeting minutes. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Ritchie, second by Mr. Herder to approve the September 3rd, 2025 meeting minutes. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Wastewater treatment plan updates. Ben?
Good afternoon. So starting off, I got notification from Bitech Resource Management that they merged with, the current contract hauler that we use, Badger State Waste. So they said nothing's really gonna change right now, but, we'll see what happens next year when we have to go out for bids again. Basically, there is no more competition in this area. So we'll see how that goes. The Self Digester, we finally got the cover back in. It's been 2 years and 3 months since we've taken that digester down. We're filling it right now. Tomorrow we should have that digester back online. And we're currently taking down our other one, so we can inspect to see what the coating looks like in that one. Then I kind of just put some pictures in there of the cover going back in. So next is the facility upgrade. So we've been discussing with Donahue, the framework of how things should go, to meet our deadline. If, does anybody have any questions, or do we go right into?
Well, just if anybody has any questions in general with the plant or anything been just discussed, otherwise we'll move on with the agenda items. Because it has to involve wastewater, but as far as Ben notes go, or if you have any outstanding questions for Ben right now to do with the plant currently.
We're just gonna slide into the sewer rate usage. Yep, go ahead.
Well,
Okay, I didn't know who was gonna,
if we go from number 4 to 5.
I guess anybody, any questions for Ben? Seeing none, I'm sure we'll hear more yet tonight.
Yep.
Then we'll move up to approve and recommend to council sewer use rate increase ordinance. Mr. Garski?
Okay, as I talk through this will kind of intertwine both like I had in the packet and in my memo. The two kind of correlate. So to handle the easy part of the sewer rate increase ordinance, we would scroll to this section 2. So this was all discussed last month in Ben's notes as far as increasing these. These are rates for haulers that bring to the facility for treatment. These increases, as Ben went over, and I don't know if you want to touch base again on any of them, or if anybody has questions on this portion, but they all are within parameters of surrounding facilities. And how long has it been since you increased any of these?
Since 2015, I believe. So it's been a while.
Does anybody have any questions on section 2 of this ordinance? Okay, we will go to the residential. So in this, you see the existing fixed rate. Before I get too far in that, the volume charge that was below this will remain the same, as I mentioned in my memo. That usage per 1,000 gallons will stay at that 974. All of these numbers that you see in the fixed meter charge have all went up by $16.90. Now, how did I come up with $16.90? As you can remember in the presentation last month at Board of Public Works, we went through the scenario of the upgrade. Chad, could you, I know you know how to get to that presentation faster than I would.
From last month?
Yes, it's in the packet.
Give me a second.
It's down a few pages.
You want to?
Oh. So in this presentation, we got to the portion that went over potential rate increases.
Right?
And, yep, thank you. So in this slide, it had the alternatives, the 4, 5.1, and 6.1, and the rate increases per year for each one of these. With that being said, I know it shows 1689, and I didn't just round it up a penny, just because there's actually half cent involved in that, and that kind of goes over this. So that's how I came to 1690. So with that being said, the next item on the agenda, which has the professional agreement with Donahue, at $667,000, for the first steps to put us where we need to be. I sat down with Ben and Judy, and we went over different ways to fund that $667,000 for this initial phase of the potential upgrade. After conversations, we said we could do it several ways, knowing that in the grand scheme of things, whichever path you choose in the upgrade, during that process, and you apply for funding, that funding, if granted to us, will back pay this and include that in that funding mechanism. But we have to come up with that funding up front. So Judy said that we could go after the actual budget portion, which would be some of the collection system, because you have the collection system and you have the treatment system. And we could pull the $350,000 that we put away a year towards projects out on the street for sanitary main, and the $80,000 towards laterals that we put away a year. That would cover a portion of it. And then you would look at more of a smaller increase. But after discussing it, instead of taking from that, knowing that we have projects coming up in 27 and 28, and we know we're looking at some kind of increase right from the beginning, how this shows increases starting in 2026, that we be proactive. We go towards cash funding it all through the initial increase. And during this process, so they start the preliminary plans to get the costs in check, to give us a better direction on total costs for each upgrade. During that process, we also do a rate study. The last rate study we did was in 2022, the year I came on board, and that is the last year that any increase took place for the collection system, well, for wastewater as a whole. So you could either do the $9 increase, which was shown for the option that we pretty much know that you're trying to nurse an old facility, or we could not potentially fall way behind and just start with this one, go through the process, go through the rate study, and then once that rate study is complete, a lot of this initial process will also take place, and it'll give us a better direction and an actual rate to shoot for. And then with this 1690 not being implemented till January anyways, it gives us a window, but that rate study takes quite a while. It's something that you just can't do in a couple months and try to meet a January deadline. So that's why I went ahead. I know this is real dollars. It's $202 a year for ratepayers to add this 690. But in the end, this rate is gonna increase no matter what. And I would rather be in line or potentially ahead with whatever direction you choose to go versus starting behind.
I agree. It doesn't, in my mind, I don't think it pays to delete the funds you have allocated for other work. And that just put us in more of a bind further time. Any other thoughts on that?
So to recap, number one, we haven't done a rate increase in several years. Number two, we know there's gonna be some major engineering initially that has to be done next year to get us going on this project, which alternative you have not picked yet, but we know it's gonna be very expensive, whatever it is. So we need to start funding that. So we need to fund the engineering, plus we need to fund the rate study next year. So we know where these are gonna end up. But to Robert's point, start at the, potentially 1690 as an increase with the hope that once we get farther in engineering and with the rate study, it doesn't have to be hopefully the 1690 all the way through. We can, taper down depending on whatever our target amount is. But there's a lot of engineering. It's very expensive.
And my understanding, and I just want to clarify, is that we're looking at 1690 increase each year. So year one is 1690, year two would be 43 or whatever it is. 53, sorry. Yeah. So potentially the 2027 might not be a 1690 increase on top of, maybe it's only $10,
Depending on what route.
depending on what we do. Yeah.
And depending on the engineering, how well they do narrowing.
Yeah,
These
okay.
initial numbers were extremely preliminary,
Yes.
It could be more, could be less, depending on what happens.
Yes, yep, and depending on.
I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding correctly, that the slide that you showed before, it was that 1690 is an increase each year, not just one time for all those years.
Yep, that was
Okay.
just an example to get
Yeah,
our revenue coming in to a point, very preliminarily, getting our revenue coming in to a point to fund, these alternatives based on the very rough estimates the engineer gave thus far.
yeah, that one shows how it would go if it was 1690
Mhm.
each year, what it would end up being. Okay.
Thanks for clearing it up because the last slide did make it look like it was staying the same.
Yeah, and I just had to make sure that I was understanding correctly. Yeah.
So one thing I'd like to clarify for everybody listening is I talked to Ben last meeting. Remember I asked you, in the perfect world, if we had to do nothing with this sewage plant, you were anticipating at least a $5 increase every year just because operational costs are going. So I mean, I'm just trying to put some perspective on it at $16. $5 was coming out anyway. It was gonna happen regardless, just to keep maintaining what we're in.
And I think that's a conservative number.
Very conservative.
In the real world, for a plant operational and no upgrade needed, that's bare bones minimum would be 5.
Okay.
Just because of costs of everything.
I just want that out there so people realize that it was gonna go up regardless. This is something that's out of our hands.
Well, and the other point we had was that, when these guys talked to the USDA, they made it crystal clear that our rates are way low. So the city has kept the rates extremely low for how many years, which on one end is a good thing. I mean, we're happy that we can keep the rates low, but on the second end, well, now we have to start paying for improvements, based on what the DNR is telling us we have to do.
We do a rate study. Are we gonna change, okay, we're gonna add 16 something for this, plus if we do a rate study, is that gonna raise our bills besides that? So we could be,
That all gets determined during this rate study, that they take everything in account. Not just residential users, but industrial users. They look at volume usage and if that has to be adjusted per thousand. So they take all the variables and they go through everything with the potential of spending X amount over X amount of years. So they're factoring in all the numbers.
we actually could get, instead of just our rates going up 16, they could go up 20 some bucks. Is that correct?
I hate to say they're gonna go to 20 or 30, but right now we're basing this off of the potential loan of 30 years at what rate it is right now, just to cover the potential costs that were shown on the screen. And that's how he based those number increases for residential users.
I always like to see a comparison. At next month's meeting, could we have a comparison of surrounding communities?
Actually, I think the rate study does that for us,
Okay.
doesn't it? Yep, that's part
Yes.
of the rate study. So
Cool.
they look at that and they do the comparisons as well.
Did we have any numbers on any of them slides? I don't recall in the last few months. Did we have any numbers of surrounding communities, Ben?
I don't believe so, but I think last year or sometime recently we did have.
I think it was, I know for sure we had comparables when we did the last rate study, showing the increases of the meters and everything. We had all the surrounding communities at that time. Since then, seeing as how we stayed at the same rate, I don't think we had anything out there, when we started talking about the upgrade as far as where communities are right now.
And you gotta remember, a lot of communities have already gone through this DNR upgrade to meet the phosphorus limits. We haven't. So we're like one of the last ones to get that limit. So everybody else has already bit the bullet basically and did what they needed to upgrade their plants. We haven't yet. So that's kind of what this is gonna take care of.
And is it not right to say that some of these communities had smaller upgrades because potentially their plant was
More suited for this type of, where New London was worried more about higher BODs. So they took care of the BODs, but you can't do the same thing with the phosphorus and the potential for the nitrogen limits. So our plants, like Mike said, is one of the most complex plants. You're pumping 2-3 more times than you need to. And it's outdated. So we're gonna have to build it so it's more efficient, because in the long term, it's going to pay for itself, basically, just in the energy costs that we would be saving if we streamline it a little better than it is right now.
Any other questions on the sewer rate increase? If seeing none, I guess I'd look for a motion. I'll make a motion to approve and recommend the council sewer rate increase ordinance. Motion is made by myself, second Mr. Herder, to approve and recommend the council sewer use rate increase ordinance. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Can we just see some hands so we make sure? Opposed? Motion carried. What?
Just one opposed?
One opposed.
Right?
You were opposed? Yep. Good. Bob, were you opposed? No. Okay. So we had one opposition, yep. All right, thanks on that, Robert. Next, we'll move into consider and recommend a council professional service agreement with Donahue and Associates Incorporated for wastewater improvement design, funding, and bidding in the amount of $667,750. Skarsky?
So in the same, spreadsheet. It had the next steps roadmap to the upgrade. In this, the initiate preliminary design, September 2025. We are now in October 2025. I had talked with Mike Gerbitz, who put on this presentation. He is confident that they should be able to reach all these goals still by January, mid-February at the latest. If this is approved, this agreement is approved this month to start initiate the preliminary design. So what does this all entail?
So I just have a quick question regarding these dates.
Okay,
These are our dates, not the drop dead dates, right? These were our goal dates?
Yes, but this basically is what would be in place to meet that 2029 date. That is our hard date.
Right, but we had dates that were far ahead of what was being required. Okay, thank you.
right. Yeah, the actual required dates are further out, but at the same time, if you wait for those dates, then you're taking that window for contractors to do the work and
Crunching it,
crunching it,
which is.
which is only gonna increase costs.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we were okay with the February, or even if it went
Yes,
into
yep.
March, we're still okay.
Yep, because we're still getting to that end goal, and some of these, it's more or less a timing to get out that public hearing and dates out ahead of time to make sure you're giving proper notice to everybody to get that public input at that meeting.
Thank you.
But yeah, he said with the team they have, all these elements, it's a ton of work in a short amount of time, but with the staffing they have, they think it's still obtainable to get that kind of, so to speak, 30% design where you're kind of narrowing down those costs and bring them back here to give you better information.
Fabulous, thank you.
So get to the compensation portion. Here we go. So in here, this is where that number comes from. Did I do that or did you do that?
I helped you out.
Okay. This only approves, even though it contains all these other elements and figures as far as the 400 through 700 for the different alternatives. He wanted to include these on there so you can kind of see the added costs going forward if you choose the different paths. those will not be determined by signing this. This is the phase 100 through phase 300 is what we're looking at right now. If you got to towards the end of the, ooh, that's all turned sideways. So it kind of lists here, and I know it's hard to read, but I just wanted to show how involved these first three steps are in the process. And they're factoring in certain hours that it would take from each one of these, not individuals, but groups, to reach that said cost on the side. Again, these are estimated times. You know, it could come in under the amount that's on there. It's based off of their rates and the hours that they think it will take to get there.
So
It will,
to be clear, the first step in this process, they're anticipating over 3,200 hours of work just in this first design phase.
correct. Does anyone have any questions on this?
And then through the design phase, that's when the city will have to determine or will determine what path or what alternative
At the end,
at the end.
because at the end, they'll have the costs narrowed down and they're running both versions, being that they're pretty much the same platform. It's just adding the dryer for the 6.1 and what it takes for that portion.
Any further comments or questions on this? Seeing none, I would look for a motion. Motion made by Mr. Herder. Seconded by Mr. Ritchie. To consider and recommend to council professional service agreement with Donahue and Associates Incorporated for the wastewater improvement design, funding, and bidding in the amount of $667,750. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right, let's
Thanks,
move on to consider.
You wanna head out? Sorry, I was just thanking Ben first time.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Ben.
Ben.
Thank you.
Next, let's move to consider and approve the 2026 Public Works fee schedule.
Okay, for the fee schedule, work in the city right away. All of these stayed the same. Most communities our size are within this, in this price range. I think it's more than fair, and I think that keeping it as is just for the amount of time that goes into each one of these, for different aspects. Grass compliance, this remains the same as it has in the past. Yard waste, so this was not in the last fee schedule that I put out. Different elements came about, and I did not update last year. So this is a new section to the fee schedule. It goes over use of the yard waste site with the gate key card at $5. That is staying the same. Lost gate key card at 10, that is the same. Vehicle sticker, $5, that is the same. ATV, $5. Or an ATV sticker if you already have a sticker for your vehicle, which is $2. All these are the same.
What
Now,
what is it for an extra vehicle? Is it $2?
5.
It's 5 for a vehicle?
Each vehicle's 5.
What's the $2 for the
For the ATV.
if you have the vehicle sticker? That's the question I had, if you have, okay.
This is the new section which I discussed at last month's Board of Public Works. Non-compliance street yard waste pickup fee for first offense. This is what I was talking about as far as grass or yard waste or branches in the street due to a non-storm event outside of our normal collection spring or fall. They will receive a notice in the form of a door hanger. A picture will be taken. They will have 5 days to take the yard waste out of the street. If not, we will collect it, so it does not collect into our storm system. And it is it's $50 for the first offense. The non-compliance street yard waste pickup additional fee or additional offense. I don't think this will come into play. It would be $100. I think a lot of it is just informing the public that there is 2 separate collection times and that yard waste does not belong in the street because we do not offer any type of summer pickup. And what defines an actual storm event to allow an additional collection.
So if somebody was to take a tree down, put all their brush out to the curb, call you up and tell you that come get it, or it's gonna be left there. Basically for $50, the city's gonna come take it.
I would actually probably, if it's a whole tree, you could actually go into a public nuisance type situation then, if it's that amount, and seek an actual offense through the police. Cause then it could be more of like, if there's, any type of other yard litter, debris or stuff of the nature where it's a offense that way.
I was just curious, I mean, looking at it as offense or, first offense or citation concept as to a $50 service. Depending on how you look at it. That's why I asked the
If
question.
you'd rather go more to a citation form, I mean, I can
I was just
absolutely go to that.
just asking for the situation of something like that where somebody were to take a tree down instead of cleaning up, well, that's worth $50 to have the city come pick it up. But like you said, that could become a nuisance situation, so there's different situations and avenues to take as well.
Well, they probably wouldn't have it in the street. This is street yard waste, right? Or are you talking curb?
Street, yes.
You're not talking if they just set it at the
If
curb?
Right away.
If it's not, where it would go into the storm system
Okay,
or create a problem within the roadway for travel.
okay. So now going back to our public comment earlier, how does this relate to grass clippings being put straight into the street? Is that more of a public nuisance fine as well, or is that
If
one of
it's-
these?
If somebody has their chute open and they cut and it goes in and it's low line, we could chase that forever. And I'd hope with our frequency of sweeping that we'd be able to catch most of that. I still try to stop and talk to individuals doing that. Ask them not to blow it in the street.
Mhm.
If they're taking their bagger and they're
Dumping?
dumping it within
Then
the
it would
curb
be
line, definitely fall under this because
Okay.
that's something that even our street sweeper cannot, pick up. It's too much. You'd take multiple passes just to somewhat knock it down.
Okay, thank you.
And if there's a habitual problem with somebody, we can talk to the police department about creating a hazard.
Mhm.
There's different avenues we can talk about with that, but like Robert said, it's kind of hard. We're not running around just looking for this. We don't have
No.
the time to just look around it, so it's gotta be someone to call in, identify it, and then we can go out and investigate. 'Cause we don't have, Robert's not going around just looking for this every day.
I mean, we all understand you're gonna have some in there, but I get her point of the excessive and. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody sees it.
Especially on Wolf River Avenue there, that's very high travel.
Since we went to the key card, have you seen a significant decrease in yard waste at the, by the sewage treatment center there?
No, I have not.
Cause I drive by it every day and it's like, wow, there's a lot there, like still.
I don't get it. I really,
But we do know we're having people that are authorized to dump. Because before we were having quite a few non-residents who weren't authorized, just, taking advantage of the system. Now everybody's registered, doing it.
and that's why I kind of mentioned that in the, in my memo, that I will be looking at a potential increase in some of these fees, being that we're on the low end of any other community that charges for yard waste. Well, we are the low end. And just seeing what we have coming in and how much time that takes away from us. And it'd be different if we had a nice storage area or some place to go with it where we could actually bring in a grinder and a drum grinder and take care of it that way. Utilize some of it, but it's definitely.
Have they had any issues of somebody waiting for somebody to open up the gate and then drive in and bang them?
We've seen that, yes.
Packed up a few of them,
And Chris is looking at the camera feed.
Yes,
and checking things
absolutely.
out. She's on there.
Or they'll come in and let it.
Yeah, I've seen them do that.
And it's a different story when they do get a letter or an email or something. It's funny how the response is way different. The last thing I have on here is parking. That was implemented last year. It stays the same as $10 a month as annual permit.
How was that process? Has that been fairly smooth? With
Yes.
people getting permits and like complaints or
No, have you received any? Chris?
like no complaints, like
Not
the stalls are full and we're supposed to be
No.
my stalls, that
Nope.
thing? Nice.
Be interested to see how this winter goes. Over there, I see quite a few open stalls yet. I don't know if they're all rented out or not, but I usually see quite a few of them open.
Yeah, they're not all rented this
Have we been having any complaints like on that front side of that lot? Where them were supposed
I have
to
not
be?
received any.
Just my normal everyday going by there. There's generally always spaces open. The only time you don't see the spaces open is when there's a lot of traffic downtown, but that front lot is parkable for people that are coming to visit the businesses downtown. It's nice.
The new parking lot is amazing. I don't know where everyone parked before. It's always full. It's amazing
It
how
is
many
always
cars, yeah.
Well, yeah, there's cars going in and out of it all of the time, but you can always, you generally always see that there's a few spots open. Yeah. So
I
it's
know
good.
that's this ain't your deal, Robert, but them lights in that entrance, I see the ports and bases now. Can you comment where we're on that time wise or?
That I am not sure of. Ginger's been
I know
taking
that's-
care of that.
Tomorrow's
Yep.
Yep,
day.
I just thought I'd bring it up since we're talking the parking lot and all the good things. We'll hit her up tomorrow night.
Does anybody have any questions on this fee? Any comments, any changes you would like me to make?
I guess I just have a question about the grass compliance. Are we having fewer people violating and needing to have their yards mowed for them, or is it about the same?
I'll ask Chris.
We had
She,
several this year compared to the last few years.
Oh, more this year,
and I
even with
think,
these,
I thought so.
Oh,
I think more of it has to do with we've had a couple dry years in a row. And this
That's
year
true.
has been, I mean, except for this last month. We had some pretty significant rain
yeah, we did.
throughout the whole summertime, and I noticed that grass is growing. I mean, I know myself. I had to
There was
cut
a lot
up
more mowing at my house too.
And I don't know if that had something to do with it as well, but
Any further questions on this fee schedule? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Barrington, second Mr. Herder, consider approval of council of 2026 Public Works fee schedule. Any further discussion?
I just got one. Wouldn't it be cheaper to have somebody haul that stuff out? Cause we take it outdoors or detach with, wouldn't it be cheaper in the long run, to have them come in and pick it up and get rid of it? Instead of having the city workers do it?
I can definitely.
Are you talking yard waste?
Talking about the brush pile,
Brush piles, okay.
brush yard
You know,
waste.
cause it seems like we never get it out of there. You never get it totally cleaned up,
We do, but it's right back.
you know, cause that would save time for the city workers to do something else that has to be done. I don't know, it's just my opinion.
And I'm hoping I can hit on a lot of these things that are on my list, just like that one. Next year when I don't, I mean, it's very minimal project wise next year, and I'm hoping to hit a lot of this more in depth.
All right, thanks, Mr. Ritchie. Motion made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, discussion on roadway issues for the 1100 block of West North Water Street.
Okay, and I like the public comment we had today as well. I indicated in my memo that we had a public comment about this area, when, we had the council meeting last month. I did look into, like, was mentioned, I looked into potentially adding 3 culverts in that area, 3 to 4. So, the water problem elevation wise starts about here. This area here is fairly flat. We do start to obtain some pitch here. I looked at, starting a culvert here, flowing to this wetland area. After, on GIS, it showed all these utilities, including, fiber being way up at the right of way line, to connect these boxes. It actually dipped down and traveled and then came back up. Back at that time, I had a discussion with utilities. There was a possibility of feeding this one from a line over here, boring under the road. We started looking at it, costs, and the cost just kept increasing to where we were quite a bit outside of what I allotted in the capital plan to try to remedy all the water issues on this road. The only real way to solve the issues along here is to urbanize it. Adding curb and gutter, 2 additional inlets. And like the gentleman stated, this is a lower area. So all of these inlets on this side, after the river reaches a certain height, you start to see the water creep back up through these structures because this elevation here is at high point, an elevation here. So of course, water self levels, these areas are gonna backfill. During the so-called off-season of, or lower river times where you're not in the nines, or eights, or, you know, you're down a ways. You don't have to be down as low as it is now, of course, but, to install those inlets, one structure, you'd have to bring it back in and tie it in to these over here. This length of curbing, and you can actually have a dump point to this side if you want. And carry it through here. So you're talking around 550 feet of curb on each side. You'd be fighting elevation issues along the way on this southern side of the road. It is doable, but what I'm trying to get at is there's gonna be engineering involved. So at what cost? Based off of our last bid documents that we got for Oshkosh Street, so you know you're looking at a lot lower cost items because of the volume you're doing over there. It's roughly, and that's a low number, is 160,000 to urbanize just this section of road. To put in those type of features to solve the water issue. And that, like the gentleman stated, being this close to the river, you don't know what type of subbase you're gonna run into. So you're dealing, you know, with potential high, extra costs just to do that subbase.
Did, them utilities that are there, were them ever hydro down to see what kind of depth they're at?
They have a pretty good read on it, and they were 3.5. And where we need to be, they want about 3 foot of cover on it. So even to run them up with the ditching, you'd still be down quite a long ways, plus you'd have to relocate. Cause if you, by the time you got down in this area, you were definitely at wire level. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on this or further discussion. I just wanted to kind of bring a cost element to try to do any remedying of the water issues that we currently have in this area.
My question is, I don't get down that far. I ended at that intersection, Elm Street intersection. How often is it an issue down in that area?
Every time it rains.
Every single time it
On
floods
my
there?
phone,
What? Yeah,
the guy that
no,
lives down there, every time it rains hard, that street floods and it goes damn near halfway across.
okay. I didn't know how, yeah, I just didn't know
It's,
how frequent it was, because we do get complaints in other parts of town, but those are not every time it rains, only when it rains heavy, heavy, hard. So I was just curious as to if that was,
I mean, you have no drainage.
right,
All
no,
runs, it sits on the north side of the road.
yeah. And that is one of the worst intersections for flooding down in the Fifth. There's 3 really bad ones, and that's right up there. So,
Now, you briefly talked about a culvert. Why was the culvert not an option?
because of the utilities that they actually run through here, right at the point of where we would start the ditching.
so they would have.
So all of those would have to be relocated.
Definitely something that should be probably addressed or look. Get some final numbers on it, I would think. Some point in time.
Let the property owners know what it would cost to relocate the utilities and say, hey, we can put in a culvert if you guys relocate your utilities.
It would, we would have to reach out to the actual utility company and get because if we're not doing a total reconstruct, then there's a cost assigned to move the utilities. Where if you're doing a total reconstruct, kind of like we did on Oshkosh, then the utility had to move their, like their fiber lines and utility boxes back.
There's no issue down farther to the left with the water. It's just right in that.
No, it's just right where the.
Just right in there.
The main one's right here. And elevation wise, it kind of goes up. There's another area right here. And then it's slow, it's pretty flat right through here, but then it starts to bleed off.
You can almost see it. Is that like the street, the staining in there? in the street
Yes.
there?
Yep.
Okay.
And it does it during a rain event, it comes out to center line. And of course, once it gets to center line, then it's moving to the south.
And I guess you
Is-
can't just redo the road.
Well, my question is this something that would be able to fall under the wheel tax usage as well?
Yeah, it's a road improvement, so
So we could look at funding that way as well.
It could be moved to the top of that list or consideration.
So I guess that's the question. I mean, we've had several individuals from the public come to other meetings saying they want to see improvements. We just had someone, voice his opinion against it. Where's the direction? We need direction where we're gonna go for this area.
Well, I do think we need to look into the DNR aspects of it, which we would have to do anyway if we were gonna do any improvements there, correct? The DNR would need to be contacted and find out.
if we're dealing with stormwater, yes.
Okay, so they would have to be contacted and approving of the project anyway.
But he's saying you can't put in a culvert and you can't do the urbanizing of it.
You
So-
can do the urbanizing, yes. But
But when the
there'd be,
water level gets so high, it's just gonna come right out of it.
right,
So.
just like everywhere else.
Yeah, but when the water raises up, you can't control that. That's Mother Nature. But when the water's down and it rains and it sits on the street, we can control that.
By
That's-
urbanizing.
That's what the people are pitching and moaning about.
But like I said, you can't just elevate the street like 6 inches.
If you do that, then that grade adjustment for those people on that
Your
south side,
driveway.
forcing that water into, some of their driveways are fairly flat when I was down there. And I'd hate to have all that extra water being pushed that way and into their driveways. And I took elevation readings all the way along here thinking, if we were to mill half this street and then try to control it by edge of roadway and gravel, just even a 6-8 foot gravel shoulder, something that it could actually define where it's gonna flow along the road edge. And it's just so flat through this whole run. It's almost like you need a low point to start, come up, have a high point, bring it back down to a low point where you'd have that extra catch basin, and then bring your elevation up and then back down. It's just so flat through there, you have to do that manually through a curb and gutter scenario.
So then my next question is where those darker spots are, where we're saying that there's standing water consistently. What kind of damage is that doing to the roadway in those areas? Because it may end up being a repair job anyway, or a reconstruct.
Any water on the roadway, on a road surface, especially when the road surface is cracked, leads to deterioration, no matter what. summer, winter, it doesn't matter. Moisture on asphalt does not work over time.
And I get where Chad's coming with. It's not the only complaint in town and you gotta try to prioritize everything. That's what you're trying to say, right?
But we just need direction. I mean,
Yep.
Robert's gone through some investigation and he was gonna try to ditch it and found out that's not an option right now. So the next best scenario, would be to urbanize it, which is more expensive. But that should help the problem a little bit. I don't know if it's gonna alleviate 100%. At least let's get the water out of there during rainy
It would
days.
help it, except for high water times. That's
Right.
the only time it wouldn't do any good. And you can't help it because of the elevation of the roadway now.
That floods from there all the way down to the 800 block.
Yep.
It ends up underwater, so. Half the time it's over the curb and halfway up into the yards, so.
If you curb and gutter, it should take care of 90%.
Correct.
So is that the direction everybody's kind of,
I'd like to see some preliminary costs. I'd like to see a little bit more on that for a project moving forward when you have less projects.
is that what you guys are
You've
looking
had
for?
3 rough years.
Yeah, that's all I need.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? All right, seeing none, we got Robert investigating on some costs and preliminary numbers and we'll see where we go from there. Director's report.
Okay, Oshkosh Street. East side of the curb and gutter is almost complete up to Pershing Road. They're about 50 foot shy as of today, on that east side of the road. They plan on working on that curb and gutter and driveway aprons the remainder of the week. It looks like the rest of the week's supposed to be dry, so they should be able to knock that out. I will mention something. I had a last minute phone call before this started about a lot of, well, not a lot, but quite a few, and it happened in the first phase, and I get it. People reaching out that see the new curb and gutter go in, and they're like, it's so much lower. And my pitch on my driveway is gonna be so much more. And I have the same discussion with everyone that calls, is when everything's dug down like that, it gives the perception that there's this huge increase of the driveway apron, and in fact, a lot of them have decreased because at every entrance, every intersection, anywhere there was any transition for vehicle traffic in any driveway or any intersection, that cross section was laid out on the plans to make sure that we didn't increase. The one call that I had that was a huge concern to that person, we strung it. I told them there was, we did lower it some. And it turned out over that 11.5 foot, you're looking at a 2-inch difference, which wasn't much. I mean, it was nowhere near you even look at Buck Street, the house on that corner, how they were afraid that we were gonna increase it by that much, and when that curb and gutter went in, you're like, it kind of gave the impression like, holy moly, you're adding a whole bunch more, but in the end, it was almost 2% less than what he originally had. And same with the yards. When you have that plane from right away to back of curb, and you have that all on one plane, it's a world of difference versus going like this and then having that drop right down to the back of curb. Of course, your yard looked a lot flatter at the original time, but once you adjust the whole plane, it's not bad, and it's all mowable. So, I just wanted to put that out there. I've also been getting calls that people are asking where their bills are for the assessments. And I said I'd get them out by last Friday. That did not happen. They will be out this week. we are very close. It's just, if I rush through it and I send out 3 that are wrong, then it just becomes a huge headache, and especially if it's wrong in a bad way. If I'm saying you're assessed 5,000 and it's actually 6, and you go back to try to tell them that, it's bad. I don't want that. With that being said, we do have the right-of-way portion narrowed down. There we go. Everybody that was, every resident that was involved with the assessment process that received this engineer report had associated costs with the right-of-way portion and with the private portion. So in the right-of-way portion, they saw this in the engineer's report with a total estimated lateral assessment being around $6,400. I'll back up a little bit. So when this all took place and people were reaching out saying, why is the pipe bursting contractor contacting me to get in the house? We really haven't talked to anybody. I discussed with them that we're looking into the cheapest option to bring your lateral up to code overall. And even though they scroll down and then they always referenced, well, this says pipe bursting in the building is 38, where lining is 32. I said, absolutely. And these costs are going to be about that if you go with these 2 options. But if everyone that has their lateral done by the pipe burst method, the overall cost is going to be a lot lower because of the right-of-way portion being at a $5 a foot versus $145 a foot, as shown here. So I had them go through first, live verify the lateral, go through with the camera, go into the basement to make sure that these laterals could be bursted. There's a lot of different factors that go into it, and I'm not a bursting professional by any means, but they each have their own way of being able to be bursted. So that's why they all went through first. Well, in the end, there was only 14 that could not be burst because of certain situations, bends in their lateral, the way it was set up in their basement, they couldn't bring the pipe in. But with all of that being done, the remainder that were not up to code were burst, and that brought this number down to under $3,000. So we are close to like, we still have a couple more to factor in, but we're below $2,800 for the right-of-way portion. So in the end, they might have spent a little bit more here, but saved thousands up here. So their overall costs were, I mean, an assessment is assessment. You can't put good next to assessment, but a lot better than what was on this sheet of paper. I will have those out this week. So everybody should be receiving them in the mail. Any questions on any Oshkosh Street items? The only other thing I have for my report is fall leaf collection, brush collection is starting next Monday, the 13th. You can find the map on the website under Public Works. You click on yard and storm cleanup page and it has the map. The first week is, of course, Beacon to the north. And then the second week is Beacon to Jennings/Douglas, kind of divides by division. And then the third week is everything to the south of that, or to the south of that. And then it starts over the following week. And that is all I have. Does anybody have anything from?
I just want to make a comment regarding the laterals. That was a lot of extra work that you did, that you put into that and working with the homeowners. And it obviously saved many residents in New London thousands of dollars. And that is a value that I think that people don't appreciate enough. And so I want to say thank you for saving that money for them.
Try to do what I can, because I was in that same predicament for my
That's-
first house, and I know
Yeah. So thank you for that.
absolutely.
Any further questions or comments for Mr. Garski? Seeing none, thank you, Robert. Future agenda items. Sure, we'll have constant updates on the sewer plant.
Yep, wastewater will be a constant on there. Can't think of any others,
Well, at some point, that block of west north
Yep.
water will be on an agenda.
Yep.
Preliminary. If anybody else has anything that comes up that they think they want to talk about, shoot me or Robert a message and we'll gladly get it on here. All right, next Board of Public Works meeting is November 3rd at 5:15. We should be good with that, everybody?
No November elections. Okay.
All right, seeing nothing else, looking for motion for adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Mr. Ritchie, second by Mr. Barrington. Any further discussion? We are